Derek Dixon committed to the Tar Heels on Friday. What's next?
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up? It's Monday, September 30th, 2024. How is tomorrow, October? Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to sincerely thank you for making this your first listen or watch of the day. And I want to send a special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, and our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders. Let's get after it. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Here's where we're headed on today's show to kick off a brand new week of Locked On Tar Heels. First off, you need to know that 5 weeks from today is the tip-off of the college basketball regular season. It is coming like a freight train. Buckle up. It's going to be awesome. So here's where we're going. Number one, man, some great recruiting momentum for the Tar Heels. How do they now build on it? We'll look ahead at that. We're going to talk about, man, there is a lot of noise for Mack Brown's hide right now, and I'm going to caution patience. Yeah, I know that's swimming against the tide, but go with me on it. We'll get there in a little bit. Eventually, we'll get to our shady stat of the football game, our weekend whip around. Just remember Joe Wolf in his life, who unexpectedly passed away last Thursday, and sent some heartfelt wishes out, man, to everyone dealing with what's going on from the hurricane. All right. On Friday afternoon, on his birthday, Derek Dixon committed to North Carolina. It is pivotal because it is the Tar Heels' first commitment in the class of 2025. Now, we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty on Dixon himself today. In fact, we're moving on a little bit past him to say, great foundation, what's next? If you want to hear more about Dixon himself, you can go check out the live reaction podcast we did on Friday afternoon. After that, it's in both the video feed and lives on YouTube. Make sure to check that out. But here's what I want to talk about in the wake of it. You've got to use that foundation that Dixon builds, and you've got to use that momentum, and now you've got to keep things rolling. Yes, Dixon is not like five-star elite type guy. He's ranked 51st at 247. But in this day and age, with the transfer portal and everything else, this is the type of player you can build on. So put a pin in that. Isaiah Denis, another one of the guys on Carolina's radar that they're looking at, just wrapped up his recruiting trip. That's what I was looking for this weekend. And so he is on Carolina's radar. It seems like he is a guy that Carolina could very well be in on, could very well land as part of this class. And obviously that would be a great get because he's an in-state kid and somebody that has good positional size. He's a 6'5" combo guard and would be really encouraging. What's interesting is as you look at the 247 rankings, I said that Dixon is 51st. Isaiah Denis is just a couple slots earlier than him, currently 47th on 247's rankings. He's from Davidson Day School in Davidson, North Carolina. Here's the thing with both of these guys. You look at Carolina's a little bit shorter backcourt right now, and Elliot at 6'1", 2, whatever it would be, and RJ at 6 foot. These guys, Dixon is 6'3", Denis is 6'5", so you like a little bit more positional size. The plan right now in Isaiah Denis's recruitment journey is for him to commit on November 2nd. That's coming up. Let me see what day of the week that is. I believe that's like a Thursday or Friday. Bear with me as I look that up here in real time. That's a Saturday. An interesting time there, but would love that. So that's coming up just a few weeks from now. So stay buckled for that. What's interesting is that's around the same time that Braylon Mullins is planning to commit, late October or early November. I've heard some rumor mill churn that there's the potential of Isaiah Denis moving up that timeline and maybe committing sooner. If so, that would mean Carolina would, Mullins would be out of the picture at that point. Basically, it's like whoever commits first. Here's what I like about the potential of having, you obviously do have Dixon, but having Dixon and Denis, both, is they are both young men that could be in this program for multiple years and quite frankly, probably would. And it's interesting where they're sitting just in that kind of right around the 50 mark of the recruiting rankings. What the key word in that is program. In this day and age, in the portal era that I referenced a little bit ago, so many teams are just trying to create a brand new roster year after year after year. Who's our team this year? Who's our team this year? What I'm looking for is how on earth do you go about continuing to still be a program in this day and age? And I think the way you do that is you land on guys kind of in this range in the recruiting rankings that you can really develop and keep in the program. And so I think getting both of these guys could be really important for Carolina in both the short and long term. And I think it's a wise move for Carolina to kind of be doing that. And I know some of it is like, hey, we cast that wide net right at the top of the class, but you've seen them pivot to a bunch of guys right here in this range. So instead of trying to create a new team year after year after year, in my opinion, the best teams in college basketball are going to be the ones who can create consistency and as much roster continuity from year to year as possible. How do you do that? You get guys like Dixon and Denis who you could rely on, hopefully, for 3 or 4 years, kind of in that RJ Davis mold. The best teams will be the ones that can continue to be a program, even in the transfer portal era. Sure, you're still going to have holes that you got to plug through the transfer portal or through bringing in freshmen. But I think this is great for the Tar Heels, again, assuming they can keep Denis and land this in-state product. Now, assuming you land Denis, what do you do? Well, in my opinion, again, with the recruiting momentum you've got to go land a high, at least one elite level dude, right? This year, that is Ian Jackson and Drake Powell. And so you've got to do everything in your power to get AJ Debance to campus. You got to beat out BYU. You got to beat out Baylor and anyone else that comes calling and say, we need you. Because you need guys at this Dixon and Denis range. But in order to be truly, truly successful, you've got to have NBA talent on your roster. And that's no knock at Dixon and Denis, who could absolutely grow into that. But you need that high-end elite guy, and that's what Debance could be. And then, because, again, neither Dixon nor Denis are point guard first type guys. Again, they might develop into that. But assuming you land them, there's a couple possibilities at the point guard position. First off, you need to know, it was reported by Inside Carolina's Sherelle McMillan, maybe others, but that's where I had seen it, that Carolina and Caden Lewis, who I was really high on and hopeful when Carolina first started, really got in on him and offered him this summer, that Carolina might be able to land him. That's not, that recruitment is done now per Inside Carolina's Sherelle McMillan. So unfortunately, you're still on the hunt for a lead guard if Elliot Cadeau is gone. There's very much the possibility he could be back for his junior year. And if so, awesome. And by the way, I think that would be bigly helpful in AJ Debance's recruitment. Just, oh, by the way. But if need be, you would have to backfill that point guard, because at this point, if you've got both Dixon and Denis, I think you're done in the backcourt. And I think you either have Cadeau, maybe Seth Trimble can grow into that role for next year, or backfill it from the transfer portal, because that's where ultimately I'd like to get to in the portal. It's not a thing you rely on to build your team, but it is a thing to help plug the holes that need plugging. And I think point guard could be one of those slots next year, and maybe shooting guard too, just depending on how the Tar Heels are feeling about what they've got at the shooting guard position already, whether Cade Tyson sticks around. I know he's not a shooting guard, but you've got his shooting, just somebody to do like what RJ Davis has been able to do. Now, here's what's wild in terms of a shift in recruiting, because it's not just Carolina that's doing this. You look at, like, let's just stick with 247's recruiting. Guys are taking longer and longer and longer to commit, at least, in that top 50-ish kind of recruit. I think a lot of this can be attributed to the transfer portal. because coaches are paying less and less attention to the high school recruiting ranks and saying like, hey, I'd rather have a guy that's just about as similarly talented, but I've already seen the production in college. I can bring him in and utilize him. And so as of right now, as of this recording, only one of 247's top 10 players has committed in the class, and that is Darius Acuff Jr., who's committed to Arkansas. Only 5 of the top 25 have committed. You add the Acuff, Isaiah Harwell, who's number 12, going to Houston, Jasper Johnson, who's going to Kentucky, and Jalen Harrelson, who's going to Notre Dame, and then Malachi Moreno, who's going to Kentucky, and he's 25th. So, just 4 of the top 24, 5 of the top 25. Let's expand it out further than that. Only 10 of the top 40 are committed and just 16 of the top 50. And so that's interesting. 6 guys are committed from 41 to 50. And then if you look out from 51 to 100, again, I said 16 of the top 50, but 28 players from 51 to 100 are already committed. So you see, these top end elite guys, here's what I think they're saying. I don't want to rush into a decision because I want to see the scope of the landscape. Either I'm waiting on dominoes to fall from other commitments, or I'm waiting to see where can I go and not get recruited over, so that if it's my 1 or maybe 2 years in college, I will be able to be showcased at a high level. But other guys who are like, I don't care, I'm going to be around probably 2, 3, 4 years in college in this, maybe 41 to 100 range, are like, yeah, I'll go ahead and commit. That's good. Because again, from 51 to 100, 28 guys have committed. If we stretch it out to 41 to 100, 28 plus 6 is 34. So 34 different players have already committed from 41 to 100. How wildly different is that from 1 to 40, where just 10 have committed? And so very, very interesting thing to see. But Carolina needs to build on the momentum that they've got going because of the Dixon commitment. How do you keep growing and growing and growing? That's what we're going to continue to watch. But I think Isaiah Denis is the next domino to fall. Will he move up that commitment to some point in October? We will wait to see. Now, we need to turn our attention back to the gridiron, where there was a lot of noise raising up this weekend about Mack Brown's job and that seat getting very hot. Thank you very much. I want to take the opposite approach and say, I think it's time to actually exercise some patience. We'll talk about why in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Hey, what's cool is the FanDuel has started to roll out regular season conference championship odds. 4 of the top 5 conferences, including now the ACC odds, are out. So let me give you the top 8. Duke plus 170. Carolina plus 350. Then there's a big old fat drop off to Wake Forest at plus 850. Miami 1200. Louisville and Clemson both plus 1400. Virginia plus 1700. And then NC State at 2200. Clearly, big gap between those top 2 on down. And let's just remind everyone that at this time last year, Duke was way out ahead as well, because they always win the offseason, but not doing as much during the regular season. We'll see if that holds true again this year. So if you want to get in on that ACC action or any other conference outrights, go check it out at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. We had a brouhaha of confusion last weekend following the James Madison game, where a whole bunch of people thought that Mack Brown was essentially quitting or retiring or resigning or something. Clearly, as he told us multiple times throughout the week through press conference stuff, he was misinterpreted, flat out said that. No, people misinterpreted what they heard from me. Well, because of what happened on Saturday, because of Carolina's lead, Duke coming back and winning, it's a rivalry game. All eyes are on it because of what had happened in James Madison. The calls for concern around Mack Brown's future are growing louder and louder and louder. People posting like fake social media things of like, hey, Jeff Saturday got hired as Carolina's coach. Hey, Cliff Kingsbury. All these different names, rumors starting to fly. all of that, I had in our live postcast after the game, so many of the comments were about getting rid of Coach Brown, who should replace him, all of this stuff. There was a question, by the way, I wanted to answer. There's a question about how do Mack Brown and Larry Fedora compare at like the exact same juncture in their progression as Carolina's head coach. Here's what's wild. Mack Brown right now, this is just his second stint. I'm not including a record from his first stint in Chapel Hill, right at 70 games right now. And he is 41-29 since returning. Here's what's wild. That is identical to Larry Fedora's record through his first 70 games, 41-29. Now, that this spot in Larry Fedora's 6th year was a catastrophic season. That was just did not go well, and that was the beginning of the end. Are we in for that same kind of thing this year? I don't know yet, but that's why I want to urge caution. Not caution. I want to caution to proceed with patience. Yes, Carolina is on a 2-game losing streak. Yes, the James Madison embarrassment. Yes, the choke job against Duke, which, let's remind ourselves, was a much better played game. Duke was the better team through the second half. And as I said on our live postcast, I thought had the better coaching moves, right? Made better adjustments, whereas Carolina wasn't able to adjust at the same level. And so in terms of the calls for Coach Brown's job, I understand why, and I get it. But here's my point. There is a lot more football to be played this season. And there are, as you look through the schedule, these games could go any which way. And I stand by this. As you look through the rest of Carolina's football schedule, there is no game on the schedule. That is an obvious win. But by the same token, there is no game on that schedule. That is an obvious loss. Legitimately, as I go through this thing, I can make an argument either way, and every game feels like a toss-up to me. And so, I know a lot of it is like, hey, can we get to bowl eligibility? Can we get to a good bowl? Is there still a chance to get to double-digit wins or anything like that? Can we outplay the whatever 7.5 wins that it was on FanDuel? I don't think, because of where Carolina is and because of what the schedule is and because of what the weird, odd ACC is, I don't think you want to look ahead to any of those things. It's got to be a literal day-by-day, week-by-week kind of thing. So right now, I'm not worried about Georgia Tech or NC State or going to Florida State or Boston College or anything else like that. What I'm focused on right now and what Coach Brown and the staff are going to be getting the players to focus on right now is not only Georgia Tech, but literally rep to rep. How do I get better in this rep? How do we as a team grow closer together in this rep? Jacoby Criswell did a great job of circling the wagons in his post-game remarks, just saying like, hey, look, we're all together as a unit and we're still trying to learn and grow. Just remember, this is a team that is on their third quarterback, a quarterback that, Carolina thought they were finished with after he'd gone off to Arkansas and is now back. They're still trying to get this thing up to speed. And I know it's tough, and I'm so disappointed in what happened Saturday in so far as Carolina had that game and we're just not able to pull it out. But right now, what you've got to do is focus on getting better and growing, especially the offense, and then especially the defense, trying to figure out like, man, we were doing so much better with our communication. Things looked a ton better in the first half. What happened and how do we learn and grow? But right now, it's what do we got to do to take care of Pittsburgh at home this weekend? Do not sneak a single peek ahead to Georgia Tech a couple weeks from now. Right now, it's the Panthers and how you win at homecoming. Yes, the guys are disappointed right now, as we all are. But there is no falling apart or losing the locker room from 2 losses. That's sure to fans. Maybe it falls apart. But if you've been part of a team, you know how this goes. It's like, shoot, those 2 games. We honestly, we should have beaten James Madison. I know what happened. We should have won this Duke game, but all is not lost. How do we continue to fight to win things? Because there is, again, toss-up games, but everything is winnable that is ahead of you. It is very possible. You got to learn how to grow and come together with your brand new quarterback. And then some other, I mean, you got to get Kamen Rucker back, right? Like you just look at that and it's like, man, what have we been missing without him? Who knows if Carolina's defense is able to hold up if you've got a healthy Kamen Rucker in that game yesterday, right? Or on Saturday. Like that is tough. And I know it's like, gosh, you allowed those 21 points to Duke. But contextually and how things usually feel, if Carolina's allowing 21 points, you're like, oh yeah, we scored 30 a game, we're in good shape. So 21 points on its own is not bad. But contextually on Saturday, as Carolina was only able to amass 20, it was no bueno. But the issue was not effort or energy or anything like that. Like last week, I thought that side of things was in a good place. It's just the team wore down. And again, as I said Saturday, I thought part of the defense kind of fell apart, but I thought a lot of that was the offense's inability to continue to make plays, which caused the defense to be out there a whole lot more. And Coach Brown agrees with that, by the way. Here's a post-game quote for him. Quote, unlike last week, I thought they gave it everything they had. This was a great college football game that we came up short on. I'm proud of their effort, and we will have to look at everything tomorrow, meaning Sunday, end quote. And so let's bring it back around to Coach Brown. Man, if you are a Carolina fan, I know you are frustrated, but you got to stand by this man and you got to do everything you can. If and when it's time, and like if the wheels just completely fall off, he's going to know it just as much as you and I do. And he'll get out, but not during the season. And so what I'm going to try to do and what I'm going to ask all of us to do is while this season is still going, man, you get behind Coach Brown, you get behind the coaching staff, and you try to continue to fight for this thing because that's what it's about. It's not like I know it's easy to just dump on things when things aren't going right. But man, let's be people who get behind our team and our coaches. We can fight for that, can't we? I think so, and I'd encourage you to do it as well. All right, we got a little bit more to do on today's show. I got to give you my shady stat of the game, and part of why things did fall apart on Saturday, our weekend whip around where things went well for a lot of other Carolina action outside of the football game. We want to remember Joe Wolf as well, and we'll get to all of that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time. Going to live events is the absolute best, man. There's that fall crisp in the air, getting out to a football game. Man, you got to start wearing some layers now. It's awesome. And knowing that, as I said earlier, basketball is just 5 weeks away. Man, I cannot wait to make brand new memories at awesome sporting events this season. Well, great news. When you're getting tickets for this year, Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So whether it's Game Time ticket coverage, their lowest price guarantee, or the panoramic views from your seat that you can find in the app, Game Time has got you covered. How about this game against Pittsburgh on Saturday? Found cheap tickets, $37 each, section 111, row P. Man, that was great. Get into Kenan Stadium, cheer on the Tar Heels like we were just talking about. And there's all sorts of other great tickets, including on the Carolina sideline at very reasonable prices, all on the Game Time app. Go check it out. And that's an app where you know that you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first order. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. It's time for the shady stat of the game. And folks, you know, after a loss, the shady stat of the game has got to help explain like why this happened. A big part of it for Carolina in the second half. Remember, if you watched our live reaction show Saturday, if not, you should go back and watch that. It's where we dug in deep on the football game. But one of the things we looked at was the drive charts from both teams from both halves. And it was like complete flip-flop for each teams in both halves. Duke, man, absolutely struggled in the first half and did not in the second, and it was the opposite for Carolina. A big part of that was the third down story. And I just want to give you the Carolina side of it, and that's our shady stat of the game, was Carolina's third down conversions. In the first half, Carolina converted 4 of their 10 first downs, but they were, 4 of their 10 third down opportunities, plus they were awarded 2 more first downs on third downs via penalty, meaning essentially they really converted 6 of their 12 third downs in some way, putting it right at 50%. And to be honest, Duke was not good on third down. Carolina held them to just 2 of 14 for the game. That's great. You will live with that. And then there was a third one converted by penalty, so you could call it 3 of 15. But Carolina, that was essentially 6 of 12 in the first half. In the second half, they were just 1 for 8 on third down conversions. Duke doing much better job, just causing chaos that Carolina could not seem to figure out whether it was execution or scheme stuff or coaching stuff from the staff. And that one conversion came on Carolina's 2-minute drive, like at the end of the game. So they were 0 of their first 6 on third down conversions in the second half. And unfortunately, the last one was the pick. So real struggle on third down conversions, where in the Drake May era, for example, Carolina just made a killing on third down. So a real struggle. That's our shady stat of the game to try to help explain some of why Carolina could not win this game in the second half with their struggles. All right, let's get to our weekend whip around, which provided much more yay for the Tar Heels. All right, men's soccer. Let's start with some soccer results. Tide Mercer 0-0 midweek. And then on Saturday, back in ACC play, hosting Cal, the Tar Heels came from behind to beat Cal 2-1. And so actually, Cal scored first about 59 minutes in, and then Carolina got 2 goals over the next 20 minutes. They're still undefeated this season, 6 wins, no losses, 3 ties, but they're 3-0-0 in ACC play, up to 3rd in the nation. We'll see where they are when the new rankings come out. Up next at Clemson on Friday. So got to go on the road and win in ACC play. Women's soccer won at home against number 19 Virginia on Friday, 3-2. Same kind of thing. The ladies had to come from behind to win. They were down 1-0. They were down 2-1. Tied it about just 3 minutes after going down. It was tied at 2 after going into halftime. And then Carolina takes the lead, the ultimate game winner, with about 16 minutes left. Linda Olmark had a phenomenal day, was part of all 3 goals, scored 2 herself, and assisted the 3rd. Unfortunately, Carolina's shutout streak is gone. They had shut out 4 straight opponents. But I tell you what, nobody's making too big a fuss about that because it is another win for the Tar Heels, who are now on a 5-game win streak. 11-1 on the season overall, 4-0 in ACC play. In fact, the Tar Heels and Blue Devils are the only 2 unbeaten and untied teams in ACC play. The ladies are up to number 4 in the nation. So both soccer teams ranked right now in the top 4. That's great stuff on the pitch. Volleyball, man, they continue their great start by kicking off ACC play this weekend, going 2-0, winning on Friday 3-0 over Syracuse, and then again on Sunday 3-1 over Boston College. So they now are 10-1 overall and 2-0 in ACC play. What a great start to conference play. Field hockey was actually off this weekend. They will be out in California this coming weekend at at Stanford on Friday and at Cal on Sunday, and then Duke will flip-flop. Stanford, not very good. Cal, a little bit better. So we'll see if the ladies can continue their unbeaten streak. Cross country. Whoo, boy. Parker Wolf comes back for his season debut, and it was a thing of beauty. The Nutty Comb Invitational at Wisconsin. This was on Friday. Parker Wolf wins the whole thing by almost 3 full seconds. Keep in mind, again, this is his season debut. It was a course record, 23 minutes and 4 seconds. Ethan Strand comes right in behind him, 7th overall. The men finished 4th in this event. It's their best finish ever at the Nutty Comb, behind BYU, Iowa State, and Wake out of 24 total teams. They finished 10th in this event last year, so really good job moving up. And this was a loaded field. 17 of the teams were top 30 nationally. And what's really encouraging about this, oh, by the way, is this is the same course where the national championship will be held. So good to get experience on it and for Parker Wolf to win. The women finished 7th in this event. They were 22nd last year, so a big jump from them. Bryn Brown paces the Tar Heels, finishing 10th overall. As of the latest ranking, the ladies were 18th nationally. So really encouraging there as well. Moving on to some sad news. We didn't get to touch on this on Friday because we had already recorded the show before this news came out. But unfortunately, Tar Heel great Joe Wolf dies unexpectedly on Thursday, September 26th, at the age of 59. Terribly sad news coming out there. At present, Joe Wolf was back in his home state of, or not back in his home state, excuse me. In his home state of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where he was an assistant for the Milwaukee Herd. Joe Wolf, great forward for the Tar Heels, 6'11", 230 pounds is his listed playing weight. The Bucks put out a very, very kind post, and part of it said, quote, "Throughout his life, Joe touched many lives and was highly respected, adored, and dedicated as a coach and player across the NBA. His well-regarded talent was instrumental for the Bucks and the Herd over 8 years with the organization, including as a player and coach," end quote. And man, just you hear it in there, man. It speaks to who Dean Smith was always working these men to be, not just great players, but great human beings off the court. And just love that is Joe Wolf's legacy, a life very, very well lived, gone way, way too early at 59 years old. Let me just give you a couple of his stats. At North Carolina, first team All-ACC player in 1987. Scored 1,231 career points, 9.6 average. His senior year, that 86-87 season, man, it was a special one. Co-captain with the Jet, Kenny Smith, 15.2 points, 7.1 boards, shot 57.5% from three and just shy of 80% at the free throw line. That team, oh, by the way, went 32-4, 14-0, undefeated in ACC play. Lost the ACC tournament championship to somebody from Raleigh by just a point, and then unfortunately lost to Syracuse in the Elite Eight by 4. A 1 seed in the tournament that year for the Tar Heels. In his career at Carolina, Joe Wolf was 115-22, made 2 Sweet 16s and 2 Elite Eights. In high school, he led Kohler High School to 3 state championships. In 2005, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel named him as Wisconsin's greatest high school basketball player ever. What an accolade for Joe Wolf, man. That is special, special stuff. NBA, he was drafted 13th overall by the Clippers in 87, played 11 years in the NBA for multiple various teams, scored 2,485 points and 1,933 rebounds. Went pretty quickly into a coaching career in 2003 and was a coach all the way up through his untimely death here, various stops amongst the college ranks, the NBA, and the G League. And so, Joe Wolf, again, a life well lived, beloved Tar Heel, and thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Also, while we're on a somber note already, I have just been overwhelmed and overcome by the scenes and everything going on from this hurricane. And I know it's affecting a big portion of the Tar Heel area. Asheville, man, literally right now is only accessible by air. Literally every road into Asheville, North Carolina is something, whether it's flooded or literally gone on I-26. And I mean, this is roads that I have literally driven on a lot in my life. That's how I went to college at Milligan from the Atlanta area. My parents live in the Johnson City area, as does Coach Rob, obviously. And so all are affected by this. My parents just got power back on Sunday. And so I am overcome by this. So please make sure, if you're a praying person, continue to lift all this up in prayer. If you'd like to contribute, please make sure you go find a reputable source to be able to donate to and to do that. If you'd like to know more about how to do that, I'm happy to research that for you and maybe point us in the direction of some good places to give. But again, thoughts and prayers to all of this as rescue efforts are ongoing to not just the families affected, but also to the responders that are just working round the clock to get things restored and cleaned up and tidied. And this is one of those things that is not just hey, think and pray about it one time, man. This is going to be ongoing for a long, 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 long time, and is going to affect a ton of people. So, if you are one of those affected by this, we love you and we are thinking of you and praying for you. All right, gang, no easy way to make a hard right turn to get us out of here. And so we'll just say it. If you're not subscribed to the show already on audio and video, please make sure you do that so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels and all the great fun we have just diving into talking about our beloved school. If you are not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, please make sure you do that so you get to be part of all our great conversations on there. They're happening literally all the time. The link is in the show notes for that, and it's free to join. If you're not a Locked On Tar Heels insider, would enjoy and love to have you come be part of that. You get to text with me directly one-on-one. You get access to all of my stats and data and charts and everything. It's a great thing to do and a great way to help support the show. Free 2-week trial, and then it's just $5 a month after that. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Hopefully better days ahead for football. Man, come on, let's beat Pitt this weekend. But until we talk again tomorrow, peace.